Greetings again. And panelists, I'd ask that you would mute your mics. And we're happy to have everyone that's with us for our first roundtable discussion on the workforce revolution and with AI and human collaboration in action. And why do we call this as such? The reason that we call this as such is because we're really focused on what it is that the workforce looks like today. Now, I know that we have AN and AI discussions for so many other different event platforms in the world, and we've had our own, certainly even earlier this year, on artificial intelligence. But as we know, there's been a constant scale and progress, meaning that yesterday's AI is not the one that we're dealing with today, if you will. And the same could be said for tomorrow. And so with that said, what I'd like to do is to be able to kick this off and go to each speaker. I want you to briefly and very quickly, as we have a lot of wood to chop, if you will, to be able to tell us who you are and why you're here with us today. We'll begin with Iris. Your mic is muted.
Hi, everyone. My name is Iris, and I'm currently with Amazon. I'm designing the mobile shopping app with AR and AI technologies to basically change the way people shop on the Amazon app. And then my personal focus with AI is how do we, as designers, collaborate with AI to create new kinds of products and experiences for consumers and the public, and then how AI is changing the way we perceive creativity, because creativity has been identified as a way of self-expression, and even some relate to kind of a higher being of ourselves. So with AI in this conjunction, how do we relate to creativity in a new sense? So that has been a question that's in my mind.
Thank you so much, Iris. We greet you. And Nadja, we have you up next.
Thank you so much for this amazing conference, Christopher. Very happy to be with this amazing panel talking on this very important topic. So as for myself, I work in the Web3 space, specifically in the funding space. So I've come across a lot of, decentralized and emerging technologies that are on the periphery of this, including AI. So that is the nature of my work. And then I think in a personal context, humanity throughout the ages has always undergone migrations from, one territory to the next. And I think that is exactly what AI is, above or beyond, what it does to the workforce and how it's transforming the social media landscape, for example. We all see LinkedIn comments as opposed to human comments anymore. But I think above and beyond all of these things, humanity is experiencing something that we never could have envisioned that we could, because if you look at sci-fi picture of AI is very different to what we are seeing today, but it's no less impactful than what we thought sci-fi was going to be. It just takes a very different form. So I'm very happy to be here.
Nadja, we welcome and greet you. Samantha, we're certainly happy to have you with us today as someone that really takes in value consideration of time, and being that we only have such a little bit of time together, even for these 2 days, please introduce yourself.
Yes, thanks, Christopher. My name is Samantha Lane, and my world is time management. So I'm a time management coach, and I teach people how to manage their time to be present in life. And interestingly, a lot of my tactics lean more on traditional tools. And so AI is a really interesting topic for me, because I'm interested to see, with more evolution and more technology, we seem to be getting a little more busy and a little more frazzled. And so I'm very interested in how this is going to emerge in a way that will prevent people from suffering from more burnout, and how do we leverage AI to actually, in fact, help people with work-life balance and burnout prevention.
That's a very interesting statistic to consideration that we were just talking perhaps a year and a half ago, that AI will either give us much more time available on our hands, or we'll be working at 10x to 20x faster. We'll touch on that in a little bit. And Camila, we welcome you.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Camila Sanders, founder and CEO of Greater Than Equal. I do strategy consulting for businesses in the intersection of sustainability, technology, and equity. And really, I'm here to help people to maximize their impact on the world by taking technology and these advanced concepts and making them easily translatable to people and what they're doing in their everyday lives, and helping them make an impact.
Thank you. We welcome you, Camila. Tamara.
Thank you, Christopher, and thank you for inviting me to this gathering. I'm Tamara Lechner, and I wear a couple of hats. The one that is relevant here is I chair the AI for Human Flourishing think tank and working group out of Harvard. My background is in the science of flourishing, which is a fancy way of saying feeling and doing your best work while contributing for the greater good. And I am delighted to have a conversation about how we can, at work and at school and everywhere in our lives, use AI to catalyze our ability to do and be our best.
We're so very happy to have you with us, Tamara. Sarah.
Good day, everybody. I'm Sarah, and I'm the founder of Lab in New Zealand. And what I'm excited about all things tech is the all things human. And I bring an Indigenous lens to the conversation. I do two things. I either work with businesses to ensure that cultural capability is an add value, and I'm working with kids right now, our Indigenous Māori children, to remind them that they're the value that they're going to bring to break, create, smash, build the future technology. So I'm really excited about all things technology and human.
We greet you, Sarah. Elena.
So hello, nice to meet you. Nice to see you again, Chris. I am Elena. I'm a research fellow with the Sherman Prize and also visiting at SAPS in Brussels. My focus is more on public policy. I'm a public policy professional and blog founder, and I really focus on how the public sector and private sector can come together on new technologies and innovations. And specifically when it comes to AI, it's really interesting to me how it will play out together with other emerging technologies like blockchain, 5G, in the bigger digital world that will be the metaverse.
We greet you. And Diane.
Hello, everybody. My name is Diane Chabasi. I am an AI and technology attorney with a background to helping Fortune 500 companies navigating complex legal landscapes, particularly in the AI space. I also lead Gracemate LLC, where we focus on business transformation and strategic consulting in the intersection of Web3 and AI. I also wear multiple hats as the executive director of Loving Legacy Foundation, where we're passionate about fostering innovation, ethics, and social responsibility in the AI space while mentoring the next generations of leaders. So today I'm very excited to discuss how we can shape the future of AI through human collaboration and creativity. I also wanted to comment on this full female panel speakers with the wonderful Christopher as a moderator today, which give me additional, boost of energy, and super happy to be here. Thank you.
We're super happy to have all of you with us today, and thank you, panelists, for introducing yourselves and the incredible work that you're doing. I might say that many of you that are coming from around the world, as we expect, and we're certainly happy to have women leadership, even to kick off this GatherVerse Summit. We value this. Panelists, we ask that you keep your remarks very brief, as we have a lot to unpack here with such a little bit of time. Naja, we're coming up to you first. I'll be skipping and jumping around. Some questions will be direct, some may not be. Naja, the true value and the possible detriment of AI usage in the modern workforce. We know that when we talk about artificial intelligence, we're saying much more than that, because it's a hyperscale and it's also a hyper influencer when it comes to other different technologies and how it operates within the ecosystem. What are your brief thoughts on this?
So the way I look at AI is that it augments things. Now, we are used to things being augmented, although the concept, the term augment is perhaps not, as widespread, but we've called it by other names. We know how to take something and to leverage it in order to use something else to create something new. Sure. Now, when it comes to AI right now, if you look at it in the workforce, it has tremendous possibilities to augment us, to augment our productivity, to augment our headspace. If you look at the concept of a second brain, there's not enough headspace in my mind, especially in the modern era, to be able to do the kind of data crunching needed to be, at the forefront of things in my field, in my life. And so there's tremendous possibilities for augmentation in AI in the workforce, But I think the flip side of that, the possible detriment, is we are already becoming quite over-reliant on it. And then that kind of opens up a whole can of worms about the quality of the data that is being generated. Is it real data from the internet? Is it AI-generated data that is being regurgitated? So in brief.
And certainly, and we certainly, there's so much you just unpack with that. Geez, I really want to go off on a tangent, but I'll keep in tone for now at the moment with this. And so with Tamara, we talk about flourishing in the workplace. You have an incredible group, AI for Human Flourishing. We talk about growth. What does that look like in this modern era of AI adoption and subscribing to?
Great question. I think in the work that we do with flourishing and AI and that intersection, what we see is a future where AI allows us to offload the mundane tasks or speed up the tasks that humans can't compute quickly enough, which is a huge potential to allow the humans in the loop to practice where they're augmenting and where they're letting it do its thing on its own. And so as far as flourishing goes, if you look at the things that enhance human flourishing, these are things like your relationships, like your sense of meaning and purpose, your sense of accomplishment. We can ensure that all of these things are being measured and monitored, and that we're getting gentle nudges in the right direction thanks to AI technologies. The potential detriment that I see is an over-reliance, and that fear keeps us from allowing this potential to come to fruition. So I'm really excited, and the hat I wear says we need ongoing upskilling, which is what you were talking about, in order to ensure that the humans are making the best use of this new and exciting technology.
Indeed. Camila, it seems to me that companies need a little bit of hand-holding in this time. And I say that in earnest because not every single artificial intelligence expert is the same. In fact, when someone tells me that they're in artificial intelligence, I often ask what the follow-up, well, we're in, because it's so ubiquitous and it's so rather large. And there's so many different functions when it comes to this rather scalable technology. When in your line of work and what you're doing, how is it that you're helping guide companies and corporations towards this Nexus era, if you will? Your microphone, ma'am.
Yeah, so really you really have to focus on what your mission is, what your vision is, what you're trying to accomplish, and not just throw AI in there. And a lot of times people also don't understand that you're probably using AI already. And it's really helping people to understand that. I work with a lot of creatives and things like Adobe products, they already have that AI built in. So it's really helping them to understand what artificial intelligence actually is, and then what are the different capabilities, and how can you use artificial intelligence to enhance what you're already doing versus and make things easier and like go to market easier versus replacing what you're doing it, and doing it in a very ethical and transparent way where you're not just going to market and not really keeping to your own values and your company values and not being ethical with it, but actually just using it as a tool and as an enhancement of what you're currently doing, and being very transparent with that with your audience.
And how do we become transparent when we start to look at what we call art, design, liberal arts, Iris? As I've often said, that you can have art without technology, but you cannot have technology without art. Why is this so important? Because the world that we're interacting with, the companies that we're involving ourselves with, it needs a new refreshment of design, especially one that's ethically conscious and aware that we know and what it is that we're interacting with in this new AI era. Iris, can you give us a bit of a breakdown on why this is so essential?
So can you elaborate on your question a little bit?
So when it comes to design and the focus that you're dealing with, especially with Amazon and your given history, what does this mean in the AI era of work?
What means ethics?
Yeah. Design.
So my personal take after experimenting with all these AI design tools has been, wow, it's really powerful. It looks like all these AI design tools and creativity tools can easily replace junior to mid-level designers. and they're much more productive, much more cost effective. However, on the other side, I think it's more of a kind of sociology question, if that's the correct term. Like, as designers, we kind of have to come to terms with the fact that, wow, now I'm not collaborating with humans, I'm collaborating with AIs. And how do we even see these works come out of the AI's hands instead of our own hands? Although in art history, some famous painters, they do kind of function as a creative director. They kind of draw the draft and they hire some other labor painters to do the actual labor for them. That has existed in art history before and still existing. But I do feel like we have a very hard time kind of dealing with the fact that I'm collaborating AI agent, and this work that's coming out of my hand, quote unquote, is actually done by an AI. And sometimes when we're doing this design work for clients, the clients have a hard time paying the same amount to that AI because it seems like, wow, I'm not paying for the AI designer the same money I'm paying for the designer. So I think it's more of a social value kind of question. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much, Iris. And I'm glad that you worded and phrased it just like that. When we talk about the social value and we start to look at what it is that we face today, not only when it comes to design, but into the process and method, if you will, Samantha, we're coming in hard and with you, because as we look at this question, how can companies promote lifelong learning and development in AI-powered workforce? The reason that this is so essential is because companies are moving at a breakneck speed when it comes to AI infrastructure, when it comes to sovereignty, extraction, and development, and identifying their own company culture. But in the process of them developing, while every company, for the very most part, Fortune 50, 500, in the startup community, shout out to the startup community, they're figuring out ways to be able to yield, whether they've been on the scene for decades or whether they've been on the scene for days. How do we take advantage of these models, yet at the same time, with the ethical consideration, the moral consideration, the value consideration? As Iris just pointed out, there's a new relationship to be held when it comes to AI. When we talk about time, how do companies have time to set this new standard and tone for the way that we're moving forward with the idea of valuing their whole entire organizations with it?
Great question. With time, in a lot of ways, we can talk about time the same way we would talk about money. They can spend time or they can invest the time. And a lot of time we don't prioritize time management in the workplace because we see it as a spend often instead of an investment. With the evolution, the very quick evolution of AI, there's a lot of people's heads spinning. We don't know which way to go. We don't know how to address it in our space. But the important thing I think to consider is whether it's now in the on-ramp or whether it's farther into the future, the human capital piece will remain, we hope. We want it to. That's part of the discussion, is what is the human capital piece of this? There is this technology, but we as humans, and I believe it was Tamara who said this, we have the opportunity to utilize AI to flourish. And that is how we will elevate everyone. That's how we will create wonderful products and services, and how we will create a wonderful life for all of us to live in. Because I think at the end of the day, isn't that part of why we created AI to begin with, is so that we could live better, so that we don't have to vacuum. The robot vacuum can do it for us, right? The early stages of our artificial intelligence and our support of technology. So I guess with all this to say, for companies to succeed in this and to leverage that time, and it'll come down to making the decision to prioritize the investment of time. This is an opportunity for organizations to say, we see where this can go. And instead of letting things pass by us because we're not managing our time well now, we are going to invest the time to ensure that the outcomes are exactly what we want them to be. We are going to see this as an opportunity to create the future that we want to live in, the culture that we want to have, the workforce that we want to have. Because one of my biggest fears with AI is that we are now going to create more opportunities to work, and the human brain and body will not do well with that. We require a recharge. We wouldn't use our cell phones 24/7 without charging them. We have to be cautious of doing that to our minds. Sure. And so that is part of what I would encourage people is prioritize that investment of time and view it as such.
Thank you, Samantha. We'll touch back on that. And as we continue to move quickly, panelists, and Lena, I'm bringing you back in here. We're going to segue into somewhat that Iris has talked about. And it touches on the question at hand, this nature of collaboration. We have a new friend, if you will. And not that we're anthropomorphizing artificial intelligence. We're certainly not. But we do have a new friend and a companion with us in the workplace. To the GatherVerse community, has AI been of value to you with the time that you've spent with it? I'm very curious to know if you're in the YouTube gang or in LinkedIn or elsewhere. Drop some comments in there and share your thoughts. But Elena, when we talk about this relationship with collaboration, I know you know something about that when it comes to humans, when it comes to people. What are your thoughts on this new relationship that we're forming and developing within the company workspace?
Yeah, when I was thinking about this panel, I was thinking about this story that there is like in Greek mythology. There is like Prometheus like bringing fire to humans and getting punished by gods. And I was thinking like AI is sort of similar in a way. Like it's probably one of the most useful things that we will ever have in the upcoming years. Yet we can either create something destructive with it, like an incident, as we can with fire, or we can create, as with fire, like a fireplace, something very constructive. So I think the nature of human and AI collaboration is really about knowing how to use that. If you don't know how to use fire, you are going to get burned. And I think there are a lot of people that are my age or younger that many times maybe struggle to get trained at the workplace. And I think right now that we're in a moment where tools such as AI are being employed in the workplace, it's a really important moment to develop very efficient training schemes, especially for young people, to know how to use these tools correctly to avoid future costs, because time is money in a sense that we need to do things faster, but not too fast, because if we do them too quickly, then maybe we're going to encounter like problems in the future, I think.
Thank you for sharing that. I find that comment very powerful and very complimentary to what Iris has expressed to us. This new generation of designers designing their way on this frontier landscape, and certainly what Samantha is talking about when it comes to how we use this technology and what we use it for, because it seems that when we adopt, we certainly are giving something back. Perhaps there's something we're leaving behind. And similar to some of the things that Naja and Camila are touching on as well, it being that we want to use the fire correctly, that we would flourish, that Tamara is touching on. Diane, I am coming into you, and then Sarah, we're jumping your way, and then we're going into the next several volley round of questions. Diane, in your work of experience on the legal front, you're dealing with companies, you're working with companies and platforms that are wildly adopting these technologies, unknown, especially when it comes to regulatory considerations, because there's not so much regulatory establishment that's been developed in these unprecedented times. How do we deal with when it comes to the stability, the safety, the wellness factor that so many people have talked about today? And when it comes to taking the right and important steps, what are you seeing, Diane?
Yeah, that's such a great hot topic these days, especially in the regulatory and legal front. You know, what I advise people is that it has to be a collaboration. When we talking about AI, it's not just technology. It's not just about how you use it, but it's really bringing your legal friends, your regulatory friend, a diverse group of people together into this movement. This is a societal change for all of us. And a practical advice I often give people, and this is how I practice in my own firms. I've been working in public companies responsible for setting up the AI governance framework for insurance companies and financial services company. Is that the first thing, we are setting up AI ethics board, or however we want to call this organization. It is comprised of representatives from HR to prevent biases potentially. Representative from legal, compliance, risk management team. Obviously, very important to have the senior leadership sponsor to be in part of this group as well. So this group of people can be large, can be very small, will be acting as advisor for any deployment, any development, any design of the AI work that's being done within the organization, and keep up with relevant movements that's surrounding this area. So this group, that's how we advise and how we work for startups as well. So
Sure.
I think that will help organization of any size to have that stability, to be at the forefront of this movement, and also do it very responsibly.
Thank you for sharing that. And sure, responsible is the way that we're looking forward. And we're also looking and measuring and wanting to understand how companies are actually going to use AI, because I'm under the impression, panel. And Sarah, let's kick in with you, because one, not every AI model that we use in this world is the same. Not every AI platform in the world is the same. It's very different and has very different effects, if you will. Yet we've still, if we relate it to Atlanta's fire, it still has the potential to be incredibly an incredible companion, and at the same time to be a very bad friend. We obviously want it to be a better friend than not. And then Sarah, you're in New Zealand. You're coming to us from the Oceania space, and I know that when we think about companies, many of us in the West tend to think about companies that are relatable to what it is that we know. But on the other side of the world, AI can have a completely different experience. And I know, Naja, you'll know something about that as well. Sarah, what are your thoughts on this whole conversation we're having?
So many thoughts. What I'm excited about AI is that it is a truly line in the sand for the past and analog biases, and because nobody really truly knows enough, just like you were saying about experts. I'm very wary of AI experts. It's democratizing in that way. It means that I can share with our people. This is the time to get involved and where the value that we're going to bring to the tool, not the other way around. AI is going to be useful to us. It is already useful to us. We've been using it in our spaces environmentally, to getting our children how to put sensors in rivers to check the wellness of a river and gather that data. And we're getting them to, kids are natural creatives and builders, and how can they bring their worldview to this technology? I just also was thinking that in 1891, Oscar Wilde, an author and an author, he wrote about the first industrial revolution. He said, man, because it's back in the day, man competed with machinery, and he was all for the machinery to do all the terrible or the dull, he said, work in society to free us up. He never quite said what we were going to do with that free up. But what I find is the free up that AI gives me is that I don't have to go learn the code, understand the science of it. I just want to jump on in where I am and take what I have and use it for what I want. So AI can never be a bad friend to me if I know what I'm using it for, if I'm making decisions about which tool I'm going to use, what databases, where is the data coming from, if I do my due diligence. I think it's not a silver bullet for me just to be lazy and hope it will, I don't know, do my job better. No, it makes me become more critically thinking, makes me do much more due diligence. I want to see the origin and the provenance of data.
Sure.
So, yeah, I've got lots of thoughts.
Samantha, we're going to jump and segue into you. Naja, we're coming to you, and then others. Samantha, we have this time. At least we think we do. Some of us have more time than we've ever had before because our tasks are being done much quicker. What do we do with this time? How do we know? How do we know how to apply this time as hardworking as we can be in society? What do we do with this? What does this mean for our overall health and wellness?
Yes, you were reading my mind, because I loved what Sarah said. And I think that AI doesn't have to be a bad friend, but like any relationship, we have to be a good friend too. And we have to not just be a friend to the AI and how we create this AI future for ourselves, but we have to have the ownership and the responsibility to be good friends to ourselves. At the risk of sounding a little bit woo-woo in a very technical conversation, at the end of the day, if we are given a 5-hour commute or a 5-hour trip back, let's just call it a 1-hour commute. Our 1-hour commute becomes something we don't have to do anymore because our technology continues to advance and we no longer have to drive ourselves. But then we spend that hour working instead of looking at the scenery or listening to a book or calling a friend. Then we're losing those moments of flourish. I love that terminology. So I want to lean on that a lot, is that we are still humans, and therefore as humans, that time needs to be spent developing us as humans. So making sure that we take that time that is a gift right back to us. If you ask anyone on this panel or not, so many people say, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have the time. So what we should be doing with that time then is all those things that we say we're not able to do. That AI is a gift to give us back our most valuable asset, which is in fact our time. But what we choose to do with it is up to us. And that's the part that I think is very important. And that's the part that, in a workforce, in a culture, is your company then leveraging AI and then with it bringing an expectation of more productivity? Or is it saying, okay, you know what, we don't need 50-hour work weeks anymore. We don't need 60-hour work weeks because we have this AI, we have this technology that's going to support us. So now everyone is capped at 40 hours a week. And then you go and you recharge your human batteries, because that's how we're going to better develop the AI, make the better user experience, better do our services. But I'll get off my soapbox. I know we all have a lot to say, but I think the important piece is that we take that time that is gifted back to us and we use it for the betterment of our human capital.
Sure, and this is a very interesting segue, because Nadja, we think about this new frontier landscape, if you will, and we're thinking about how businesses can prevent AI from overshadowing human creativity and intuition, because we know that we become innovators again. Not that we've stopped innovating, but we're using these tools, if you will, these applied sciences to innovate in ways we've never been before. And I know that's certainly the case with all that you're doing with that Lunum and all the different things that you're seeing in there. What does this mean, this new period of innovation, of hyperscaling artificial intelligence with other different technologies that we don't even know that's on the way, but they certainly are arriving? How do companies deal with this amount of new technological infrastructure that's being deployed?
Yeah, so I think very good question. I think when you think about AI, it always depends on the lens that you're looking at it from. So what AI means to one business is very different than it might mean to another business. So you might have a business that incorporates generative AI as part of their strategy, let's say a social media strategy, and then you have another business that's all in on AI, and it has very complex, like it is an LLM, for example, or it is building its own LLM or leveraging LLMs for very complex tasks. So I think the question of the business AI relationship very much depends on what the business needs. Now, what the business needs is not necessarily that they understand AI is an answer. I think there are businesses who very much understand that the problems and the challenges that they are facing, they are coming to the limitations of what we are able to do with it. Let's say if we were to scale it in a human form. But then because of AI, suddenly you are able to address a challenge, you are able to address a problem in a different way that you had never thought to do before because the technology didn't exist. So I think very much if you look at, what AI means to business, there are some businesses who have no idea that it exists. And when they read about it in their personal capacity at home, the Google News feed in the morning, it's all about, I don't know what this AI is going to do. It's going to probably take over the world. And then, of course, on the other hand, you have founders telling us that AI is the future and it's the answer to every single problem that humanity will ever face. So I think there's a very, very broad spectrum. And I think ultimately the question there is, what does a business need? We very often ask this in the blockchain space as well. Yes, you want to be on the blockchain, but why? If you can't answer that, then maybe you shouldn't be there. And I think AI, we need to take a kind of similar approach. Yes, AI is going to transform and revolutionize so many things, for better, for worse, ugly, beautiful, the whole shebang. But I think what we need to start doing, and we need to start doing now, is we need to start thinking about what does AI mean to us? And that answer is different for everybody. But I think as a business, as a team, and also as an individual, whether personal capacity or a professional capacity, start thinking, what does AI actually mean to you? It's not a fix it, but it certainly is something that cannot be ignored and shouldn't be ignored, because why would you ignore the benefits that it's able to give?
Right. Thank you. And how do we preserve, Elena, the relationships that companies already have with its own people? Because companies, hey, let's look at it. Let's be honest. It's not all connected in the ecosystem of companies and business as we know it now. And the relationship isn't always as strong as they want it to be. But now that we're entering into another relationship that's coming into scene, how do we make this more cohesive? How do we keep this all together ethically? How do we hear what other people want when it comes to AI within the companies? Because ultimately, the workers, if you will, are using and adopting and subscribing tools that they never have had before. And quite candidly, the ones that want them to use it, it's all frontier and new for them as well, especially the AI that they're making. How do we make sense of this ethically when it comes to this prospective entanglement, if you will?
Yeah, this is very interesting to think of. I think that in general, like the workspace is something that we have challenged to rethink since the pandemic. And so in general, like human interactions have been changing very much in the past 4 years. And with the rise of AI, of course, there is this adjunctive variable. But I think in general, what really matters is not how many variables are present, but how strong are the human variables. So how strong are the people involved in a workspace, for example, ecosystem. So I think if we take a company where there is a very good scheme for people entering such company and a very good company structure where people are mentored, for example, there are checks on how people learn, then of course, then you can have AI, and that's a new tool to use. But that is not something new to add on this. It's just a new tool where you need checks on the people that are coming, and you will probably have to have a consultant or expert on that. But that's just a normal approach, and you add AI into the conversation. I think that there's this general issue right now where probably because of the pandemic, companies sometimes are decentralized in the sense that they lose this company feeling of being together. And especially when it comes to young people lost a little bit this idea of like, I need to learn something, probably because young people are also part of like this digital natives part of the population. So many times when it comes to new technology, more experienced people, they have this feeling that younger people are the ones that maybe they can teach them, but it's not always the case. Many times young people should be looking at older, more experienced people to learn, and not just when it comes to AI. I think in general, when it comes to every single topic, and AI is just one specific case. And I think if we're able to bring back this kind of approach in the workplace, even after the pandemic, and tailor it together also with the rise of remote workplaces and AI, it can be a very beneficial environment for new generations to work and for the future in general.
Sure. And thank you for sharing that. You know, I find it very fascinating and rather interesting panel. And we're coming to you, Tamara. When we talk about coming over the past, let's say 4 years, I think we all can agree we've become more virtual in some sense in the past 50 months than we had the past 50 years. And that we're never going back and that things are moving at a rapid acceleration. I think about Naja talks about when she brings about blockchain technology. It's not new, but what it introduced and what it propelled when it comes to the world of crypto and having companies to understand this multi-billion-dollar space rather quickly. It leads into a bear and bull market, if you will. When we think about artificial intelligence as an applied science, Tamara, it's causing companies, whether they wanted to or not, it's causing companies to deal with this thing, this behemoth that many of us are still figuring out. Someone said it earlier that some companies haven't even adopted. I think it may have been Diane or someone that said the companies haven't even adopted this. Look, ChatGPT is what, maybe 50% globally adopted. There's still so much of the world that doesn't know what this means. Yet you're on the pursuit of rather becoming another expert, as Sarah had talked about. Instead of becoming that AI expert, you opted to go the path of flourishing in this narrative, similar to what Samantha talks about. Why is this approach so critical at this present time when we're hyperscaling like we never have before?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think when I looked at the utopia or Armageddon future that we're seeing described in pop culture, what became really clear to me is we needed to foster a more synergistic approach where humans could focus on the things that are uniquely human skills. Those things like being future oriented, those things like having true empathy. I think, Christopher, it was you that said to me that on a podcast interview that you and I did, that humans will be the only ones who can smell the ocean. Yeah, AI might be able to draw a beautiful ocean, but it's never going to tell us what it feels like to have that salt on our skin. And so as this rapidly evolves, holding on to the things that are uniquely human and actually doubling down on learning about those skills, because a lot of our uniquely human skills, let's take emotional intelligence as an example, are things that we have not explicitly taught in schools historically. So we've left it up to humans to hope that we might have somebody emotionally intelligent who helps us to learn to regulate our emotions without ever telling us why we need to do that, how we need to do that, and what the mindset and the skills are. And so I'm excited that at this time where we are going to be able to augment the way that we are working by offloading and substituting and really outsourcing some of the things we don't want to do, I want to get really intentional about how we learn and grow the skills that we do want, even together with AI. So emotional intelligence. I have a friend who has built an amazing company that is helping humans to understand and decode emotions. Because, as an example, I may look at your face, Christopher, and think, oh, Christopher looks like he's feeling X. You may not be feeling that at all. So I may have misinterpreted your emotion. And now I am changing my response, my reaction based on a mistaken interpretation. What if in the future we have an augmented ability that I've got a wearable that says, hey, you are getting excited, you are activated, and you tend to not make good judgments of other people's emotions when you're activated. So here's a great time for you to ask Christopher what he's feeling, rather than assuming based on your past experience that isn't the same as Christopher's, that you know his emotions. And so this is where I think having the human skill to understand and name granularity of emotions, combined with that AI augmented ability to check our work and to outsmart our bias, this is where I see the future unfolding, where we can be better than we are today with both human intelligence and augmented intelligence.
Thank you for sharing that. And I would second that with all the power and all the things that AI can do, we'll never know the scent of the sea. Yet it will have the capability through multimodal capacity of computer vision to understand our emotions and to be able to read that. And one day, through self-aware, it'll believe that it has its own emotions. And that's something, whether we want to deal with that or not, we'll be dealing with that nonetheless. Camila, we're coming on to more of an intimate dance between the adoption of companies in this world and this relationship to this machine, if you will, that's entered into our lives more abundantly. It's nothing new, if you will, but the manifestation therein is. What are you seeing when it comes to guiding companies, and what do they actually want when it comes to us, all of us? We're educators, and having to teach them the better and pragmatic approach to artificial intelligence adoption?
Yeah, I think, the companies that I work with, they want to make an impact on the world, right? And I work with a lot of startups that may not have all the resources that they need and all the connections that they need. And even the, brainstorming power or a marketing machine or an agency or, things like that that they can have access to. And I work with a lot of global companies and individuals that are like that. And so I think that companies are hoping that they understand their limitations, and they're hoping that artificial intelligence can help to connect and help to fill in the gaps, whether it's connecting with people globally, or it's coming up with a website, or coming up with marketing materials. It's all about knowing your own limitations, and then artificial intelligence helping to fill in those gaps so that you can realize your vision.
Got it. Thank you. Iris, I want to segue to you quickly, and then we're going to go round robin here very quickly, panelists. And the relationship, as it says on the screen, how do businesses establish a relationship between human skills and AI capabilities that's complementing each other's strengths, especially with all the incredible leading that you do in design? That's very substantive. I've had the chance to listen to some of your talks before, and what does that look like, this collaborative space of human skills and AI capabilities now, similar to what the stuff? Please.
Yeah, so I wanted to actually make a comparison between, this relationship between designers and in this age, it's really comparable in my view to online dating's impact on traditional dating. So as designers now, with the help of AI, we suddenly have like instant access to 1,000 visualization of ideas. So rather than, diving deeply into one idea and kind of getting to understand that idea and feel that, we just kind of browse through the 1,000 graphs and pick one out of them, and then, kind of create more follow-up designs out of that. It's really similar to the problem we're facing with online dating, because now with online dating, we can just swipe left and right, maybe meet 1,000 people overnight. But our relationship with each of them is really shallow. So I wanted to kind of bring back a more mindful approach as designers with creativity. I'm not against the use of AI, but I'm just kind of proposing that we choose to dive a little bit deeper with some of the more mindfully selected ideas, rather than, going a very fast and furious approach. But the relationship we're having with them is really not of high quality. So that's one thing I want to encourage the community to do. And then kind of along the same line, I think it's really helpful for us to do maybe some fasting of AI from time to time. Like now, the 72-hour fasting or extended fasting is really popular in the health community. I think it's really helpful for us to kind of encourage or even force ourselves to live without AI for a few days from time to time, so that we get to know what it feels like to create as a human being, rather than, always delegate things to AI. Because as I've experienced myself, having these tools really change the way we create our own workflows and change the way we use to create. So I think it's really helpful to really discipline ourselves from these technologies and remind ourselves of that human touch that is essential in not only creative work, but also artistic work, self-expression. Yeah.
Just because we can use fire, that doesn't mean that we should. And just because we can use fire doesn't mean that we need to. That's really beautifully well put, Iris. Panelists, we're going to go at a 20 to 30 second clip per answer. I want to hear from each of you. Diane, kicking off with you. What might the future of human AI collaboration look like as AI advances? Please, we ask that you ask in an accelerated fashion.
Yeah, so as we continue to navigate, this rapidly evolving the landscape of AI, I think one thing is very clear. It's that the future of work will be shaped not just by technology, but by how we choose to integrate it into our human experience. And AI really have the potential, as we see, to unlock incredible efficiencies, but it's our creativity, our empathy, our ethical responsibility that really drive the real and transformational change. So
Right.
I think as we said, the most successful organizations will be those who embrace AI as a tool to amplify the human potential rather than replace it. And I believe and truly believe that fostering the collaboration between AI and human strengths we can build a workforce that's not only more efficient, but also more innovative, inclusive, and impactful.
We'll need that. Sarah, 20 to 30 seconds, please.
One of our elders said a long time ago, Maori, we embrace, but we're not replaced. So the fear is AI might replace. If we're clear about what AI is and what we are, what it does, what we do, then the future is a bright future. It's about being clear in that relationship.
I prefer to see the brighter future than the darker one. Camila, please. 20 and 30 seconds.
Yes, I think the future we're going to see seamless integration, whether that's through experiential learning with youth or with adults. And then also, I think it's more about having the time and resources to have accelerated innovation. I think that's what we're going to start to see in the future.
Yes, and I embrace this change, if you will. Elena, please.
Yes, I think for me, the future of AI is in two keywords. First, dedication to learn how to use it. And the second, accessibility, because I think that besides learning how to use Fire or AI, you need to have the tools to access it. So there is no Fire if, I don't know, half of the population doesn't have wood, for example. So we need to make sure that connectivity is available in more areas, and in that sense, more people can have AI and learn how to use it.
With all these tools that help keep us together more closely, and sometimes people feel never more disconnected than they are now, but all these tools are meant to keep us together. Might we keep that in mind? Tamara, please.
Yeah, I believe that the future is likely to involve more personalized AI systems that are tailored to our individual work and tasks, but they're optimizing those uniquely human skills that I was talking about earlier. One of the people watching in the chat mentioned, does it have to be measured or can it be felt? And I think this goes back to what Iris was saying, that we need to ensure we are staying connected to our intuition as humans, swiping right and swiping left, like she was talking about, and knowing that as we start to have a more seamless integration with AI, we still have to trust our human guts about what is a good use and what is an ethical use, and really doubling down on those uniquely human skills will help us to flourish together.
Indeed, might we follow our hearts? Iris.
Yeah, so along Tamara's lines, I think we will, in the very near future, we will go through a pretty turbulent stage where, you know, as humans, we struggle to find how do we coexist with it, how do we use it in a smart way without losing our own intuition or some of our own humanities. But I believe that after that, we'll enter another stage where, you know, it's more in harmony with each other.
Thank you. May we always be harmonious. Naja.
I think if we advance far enough in our imagining, we can't imagine anymore. And I think that's the exciting thing, is we are, you know, like Darwin used to catalog new species that had existed for so long, but no one knew about. That similar sort of excitement of us now. We are witnessing the evolution of societal DNA, and we are witnessing the evolution of us being the evolution. So if you go far enough, who knows what the answer to this question is. But I think the exciting thing is, yes, there are incredible challenges. Yes, there are incredible opportunities. We don't really even understand either of these. But what is exciting is we are witnessing something that, I mean, this is history making, if anything has ever been. And I mean, we are alive for it. So that's pretty cool.
I can imagine years looking back and looking at this time and saying, wow, we were actually in that. And how appropriate to end with you, Samantha, and the subject of time, because that's all we have for this roundtable discussion, please.
Well, I will be quick, and I'll say Elena said it best when she compared it to fire. And maybe because I've spent my life married to a firefighter, I will tell you that we will have both outcomes. We will have positive, wonderful things that will be a guiding light for us. But if we are not careful, we will still need firefighters.
And with that said, keep the fire lit, keep the car running. We had an enjoyable discussion. At GatherVerse community, we certainly hope that it's been well for you. Panelists, we certainly hope it's been well for you. We're so happy to have your expert minds. Audience, follow them, journey with them, sojourn with them. there's a lot more that they'll have to share outside of this digital schematic and parameter. Our Gather was well. Now, up next, Wellness Intelligence with Russell Bundy and Amy Blankson.